It was an ordinary Monday, and I went to work on time as usual. After finishing my work, I was ready to go to the canteen for lunch. When I was about to finish eating, my stomach started to have a sharp pain. I felt very uncomfortable and I went back to my desk. I decided to take a break with some water, hoping to relieve the pain. I took a sip of water and things didn't get better. I suddenly collapsed and lost consciousness. One of my colleagues quickly called the emergency services. Shortly thereafter, paramedics arrived on the scene and they rushed me to the hospital. Throughout this process, my supervisor stayed by my side, giving me support and comfort. Upon arrival at the hospital, the doctor performed a series of tests and diagnosed me. The doctor told me that my pain was caused by kidney stones. The doctors decided to keep me under further observation to determine the best treatment plan. They explained that surgery may be required if the situation warrants it. My daughter arrived at the hospital with some of my personal belongings as well. During the course of the day, I underwent a series of tests. Due to the increased pain, the doctor gave me some pain medication. This medication helped to relieve some of the pain, but shortly after, I began to experience fever and nausea. A nurse reassured me that things would get better after a while. In the evening, my daughter had to leave the hospital because she had school tomorrow. My sister decided to stay and continue to take care of me. Since she had to work tomorrow, I was adamant that she go home and rest, promising that I would take care of myself. I knew she had hardly eaten all day. However, during the night, I started to vomit. When the nurse learned of my condition, she provided me with some anti-vomiting medication in hopes of relieving my discomfort. Around 10 p.m., the doctors were having an emergency meeting. I told the nurse that my nausea was getting worse. She told me that she could not provide me with any treatment until she checked with my doctor. This meant I had to wait until after the meeting was over. Suddenly, the doctor who had been treating me during the day walked into the room. He told me that he was leaving work and offered me his best wishes that everything would go well. He told the nurse at his side to give me an anti-nausea medication to help relieve my symptoms. Shortly after, I began to feel my eyes become heavy. I felt my body become weak and my breathing became slower and slower. Gradually I lost consciousness. This condition made me feel very frightened. I realized that I had entered an abnormal state. I tried to call the nurse, but could not make a sound or any movement. I no longer had any control over my body. I remember that my soul was pulled out and a strange feeling filled my whole body. I was detached from my body and suspended above the bed. I was able to clearly see everything that was happening in the hospital. The nurse entered the room and pressed the bedside alarm. She tried to connect me to oxygen. However, there seemed to be a problem with the equipment, and she kept fiddling with the oxygen machine. A group of doctors and nurses were constantly busy around me. Some were preparing syringes and others were adjusting the settings of the apparatus. The doctor was shouting my name while shining a flashlight into my eyes. The doctor told the others that my pupils were dilated. The doctor picked up a syringe and prepared to give me a drug injection in my chest. Then I heard the doctor say that I did not have enough oxygen supply to my brain. At this time, I decided to leave the area. I went out into the corridor of the hospital. I came to the next room. There was an old man lying in the room who was on a ventilator. He was about 60 years old and his hair was silvery gray. He was very tall. As I approached him, I could smell the smell of alcohol coming from him. The old man was lying on a bed, connected to a ventilator. His face looked very tired, probably due to a long illness. The next experience was surreal for me. Suddenly, I appeared in a white room. Everything around me was pure white and full of bright light. The space emanated a strange energy. There were no walls or windows in this room, only a door. I couldn't make out the exact shape of the door, but I knew it was a door. It seemed to be the only exit in this room and exuded a mysterious attraction. The door was in stark contrast to its surroundings, as if it were a gateway to an unknown world. An impulse came over me to walk towards the door and explore everything behind it. I bravely stepped out of the door. I immediately felt an unprecedented sense of relief and peace. There was a superb scent in the air, far more than anything I had ever experienced on Earth. This fragrance was so pure. A hill appeared before my eyes. It was so different from the hills on Earth. They were so spectacular and mysterious that they were completely beyond my imagination of the natural world. These hills emitted a unique glow, shining with soft and enchanting colors. Just as I was admiring the view, suddenly my uncle appeared in front of me. He was exactly the same as I remembered. This made me feel very warm. When I was very young, I spent a long time with my uncle and his family. During that time, my parents had to stay in the hospital for a long time to take care of my brother, who was born prematurely. My uncle and his family selflessly took me in and gave me love and care. Although I was only 4 years old at that time, the memories of that time are very memorable. Seeing my uncle's presence made me feel very close to him. Later, my parents and I moved to another city, and our contact with each other gradually became less and less. For a long time, we rarely saw each other and could only keep in touch by phone. In August 2005, my uncle passed away. He had a tragic fall at home and then fell into a coma and eventually left this world. This was a heavy blow to me. In the last hours of his life, I was at his bedside, watching his life fade away. It was an incredibly difficult and painful time. And my heart was filled with sadness. Here, the encounter with my uncle seemed to have a special meaning. It seemed that my uncle's soul found peace and eternity in this wonderful space. My uncle gazed at me with caring eyes. Suddenly, I felt my uncle's response to me. A kind of communication between souls. Although there was no sound, I could feel it. "Uncle, I don't know what to say, but I want to tell you that even though we have been separated for a long time in the real world, you have always been one of the people closest to my heart." I felt a warm response, as if he was silently telling me that he was always watching over me and supporting me. "Thank you, Uncle, for all you have done for me. Although you have left this world, I know that your soul still exists." In this wonderful space, I had a conversation with my uncle's soul. Although there were no words exchanged, I could feel his love for me. This conversation gave me inner comfort and strength. Finally, my uncle said to me, "Son, it is time to go back. Your daughter needs you. You have to continue to take care of her and give her your endless love and care. I will always be with you, and even though I am not with you, my blessings will always be with you." I understood what he meant and knew I had to return to the real world and fulfill my responsibilities as a mother. Suddenly, I was back in that white room again. This time, I noticed that the door was gone. As I felt confused, the scene around me began to blur, as if it was being slowly erased by some force. I could feel my soul being pulled by a powerful force and re-entered the hospital. I could hear the beating of my heart. My body gradually recovered and I could feel the temperature around me. When I opened my eyes, the nurses told me that I had scared them. Even though my body had recovered, a sense of loss gripped my heart. I didn't want to talk to anyone. This loss made me long to be alone and dwell on my memories. For a long time, I chose to remain silent and did not discuss my experience with anyone. Later in the year, I began to adjust myself and reintegrate into my daily life. Despite my choice to remain silent, deep inside, that amazing experience stayed with me. It had a profound effect on me. I understood that some things cannot be explained in a conventional way, and they can give us unique insights. This experience has changed my outlook on life. I became more tolerant and understanding of others. I began to see life and death from a broader perspective. I learned to look at all my experiences in life in a positive way. I no longer feared death, but looked forward to it. I realized that the real meaning of life is how to live a more meaningful life. My outlook has also shifted, especially on issues related to health. I realized that health is a precious gift and that we should cherish and take good care of our bodies. This experience has also changed the way I deal with problems. I have learned to face challenges and difficulties with a positive attitude. No matter what the outcome is, I will learn from my experience and lessons. I believe that every setback and failure is a part of life and they shape our growth and development. Although I did not meet an angel or God during this experience, I am convinced that God is real. This experience has also strengthened my faith in God. I believe that God plays an important role in everyone's life, giving us strength and guidance. During my coma in the hospital, the lack of oxygen supply to my brain caused damage to my brain, which caused me to develop a mild form of epilepsy. This disease became a part of my life. Although it was a difficult experience, I firmly believe that there is something better waiting for us after death. This belief has given me tremendous strength and courage to persevere. Without my faith and my responsibility to my children, I may not have made it through this difficult time. My faith has become an anchor within me, giving me hope and strength. I believe that after death, we will enter the other world, free from all pain and worries, and attain eternal peace. In addition to my own faith, my children are also my motivation to keep going. As a mother, I must be strong to face difficulties and create a bright future for them. I am an environmentalist. 2 years ago, I started to travel by bicycle. This decision was not only to reduce my carbon footprint, but also to help me get closer to nature. I was at an intersection. Suddenly a speeding sports car hit me from behind. Both my bike and I were knocked off our feet. I remember the impact was so violent that I fell heavily to the ground. I felt severe pain and I felt that a few ribs had been broken. Fortunately, there was a traffic cop nearby. He helped call the emergency services. Since I was already in a coma, I was not clear about what happened next. Shortly after the accident, I emerged in total darkness and I lost my sense of direction. In this strange and scary place, I heard some strange noises coming from the distance. As the sound drew closer, I perceived it to be an evil creature. The creature was surrounded by flames, it had huge eyes and teeth, and it kept growling. Its eyes were full of malice, and I sensed the evil aura from it. I saw it stick out a very long red tongue. I could not move, as if there was no way to escape. The evil creature was rapidly approaching me, gaining speed. I stood helplessly in place, and all I could do was close my eyes and hope to escape this terrible threat. The creature passed through my body, and the flames around it tried to melt me. The demon let out a gleeful laugh as it seemed to enjoy the pain it was inflicting on me. I was in an endless state of despair and fear. Just at that moment, a mysterious power surrounded me. It was like a huge hand holding me tightly in its grip. I began to move upward quickly. I found two new demons approaching me. They had different colors on them, but they were equally frightening. Soon after, I came to the entrance of a black tunnel. I stood there, staring into the black tunnel, with questions and fear in my mind. I didn't know what was at the end of the tunnel, but I knew that the only way to find the answer was to go inside. I found the atmosphere inside the tunnel even more terrifying. The tunnel was very damp. The tunnel seemed to have no end, making it easy to lose one's way. Through the faint light, I saw some symbols and patterns on the walls of the tunnel. Sometimes, I felt as if these patterns were moving. The tunnel was not a very straight passage, but had various forks in the road. I lowered my head and was surprised to find that my body had disappeared and I was now a ball of light that shone blue. I noticed that there were other luminous bodies just like mine wandering through the tunnel. They emitted different colors and glows. We wandered through the tunnel at random. Suddenly, two glowing white luminaries appeared beside me. I felt the warmth and sense of security they conveyed, and I followed them onward. As I proceeded, I encountered many forks in the road. Some of them led to hell. As I approached those intersections, I heard screams. I saw a wasteland full of bubbling excrement, the stench of which was unbearable. There, the devil tortured those people in all kinds of cruel ways. They suffered endless pain and suffering. I continued to fly in the tunnel. In another tunnel, I saw a completely different scene. A group of people were walking with their heads down on a barren yellow field. Their eyes were hollow and their expressions were confused, like a group of zombies. I didn't dare to get too close to the entrance, because they gave off a disturbing aura. It was as if they were bound by some kind of power and could not get out of their predicament. I followed the white luminous bodies as they continued to advance. They entered one of the entrances, quickly. As I approached that entrance, I saw a dense forest with a huge waterfall next to it. The sun shone on the waterfall and the water droplets glittered like diamonds. I walked into this amazing forest. Some of the trees seemed to emit a colorful light. In this magical forest, I met many strange creatures. There was a creature whose whole body was covered with flower petals, each of which emitted a charming fragrance. Its eyes were a bright jewel, shining with a gentle light. It was about the size of a cat. It kept weaving in and out of the flowers. When I came close to it, it gently touched my fingers with its soft petals. There is another creature that looks like a fish, but it has a pair of translucent wings. Its scales shimmered with a seven-colored light. It flew gracefully through the air. As I approached it, it rested on my shoulder. It made a soft chirping sound. I felt a special connection with it, and it became my guide and friend in this forest. It led me through the forest. After we passed through the forest, a huge building appeared in the distance. As I approached the door of the building, two tall and majestic angels suddenly appeared. They wore white robes, and their wings glowed brightly. As I was about to walk through the door, one angel reached out and stopped me. The angel took out an ancient book with names written all over it. He pointed to the names in the book and told me that this was the list for the day, but unfortunately my name was not on it, so I could not enter yet. This news confused me. If I couldn't get in, why was I here again? The angel then took me into a room next to it. This room was like a library with books on the shelves. Some of the books were very thick, while others only had a few pages. I saw an angel standing in front of the bookshelf, holding a delicate quill in his hand, writing on a book. Curious, I approached the angel. I asked him what he was doing. He explained that he was recording each person's experience. Each book is a unique story, a precious experience. Angel asked the angel if the book of life contained everyone's experience. The angel smiled and nodded and said, yes, the book of life records each person's journey on earth, whether it be joyful or sad. Each person's thoughts, actions, and feelings are recorded in detail. The angel went on to tell me that when a person dies, their book of life will be audited. The purpose of this audit is to evaluate whether or not they can enter heaven. At the same time, the angel also reminded me that the book of life can be modified. When a person confesses to God and sincerely repents, the bad things they have done will be erased from the book. This is the opportunity that God gives to human beings. I was very shocked. No matter what faults a person has committed, he or she has the opportunity to revise his or her book of life through confession. The angel went on to explain that there are only two special dates recorded in the book of life. One is the date of birth, which marks the beginning of one's time on earth. And the other date is the day of rebirth, which represents a person's complete dedication of his or her heart to God. I asked the angel if I could look at my book of life. The angel shook his head and refused my request. He told me that although I was curious about my book of life, it was not the time for me to unveil its mysteries. He gently explained that I still had a duty and a mission on earth. My family needs me. I was disappointed and frustrated to hear such a reply. My heart longed to stay in this place. I had no intention of going anywhere else. I tried to express my confusion and longing, but the angel interrupted me. He again emphasized that it was time to leave. Although my heart yearned to stay here, the angel's words also reminded me that my family needed my company and support. I knew that leaving this place did not mean giving up, but embracing new challenges. The angel encouraged me to take what I had learned back to earth and to pass on love and kindness to those around me. The angel reached out his arm and gently touched my forehead. I felt a warm energy. He told me that God's love and guidance would always be with me wherever I went. As I left that gate, a gentle breeze blew across my cheek, seemingly a blessing from an angel. I felt a light energy envelop me. I began to descend rapidly until I was back at the hospital. My family waited anxiously in the hallway, their eyes filled with worry. My spirit was close to them, but they seemed unable to perceive my presence. I longed to communicate with them and tell them that I was okay now. I knew that I had to get back into my body right now. I focused my attention and my soul slowly began to merge into my body, and I could feel the temperature of my body. I could feel my heart beating. I slowly opened my eyes. The doctors were amazed at my awakening. They could not explain this medical miracle. But I knew that it was all by the grace of God, who had given me a second life. Although I could not describe my experience to them, I knew that this experience had really happened. I will cherish every moment of my life and pass on love and hope to those around me. My return was a miracle and a rebirth. After this experience, my life has changed dramatically. I have a deeper understanding of the meaning of life, and each day is seen as a precious gift from God. I no longer waste time on negative emotions. I realized that every moment in life is special. This experience has awakened in me a deep understanding of love. I know that love is at the heart of our lives and that it can bring miracles. I actively pass on and share love, whether with loved ones or strangers. I am involved in charitable causes, hoping to bring warmth and comfort to those in need. I want to be a supporter and encourager in the lives of others. I understand the illusory nature of material wealth and that true wealth lies in inner satisfaction. I no longer seek personal success, but the ability to make a positive impact on the world and bring joy and change to others. At the same time, I have learned to care more for myself and take care of my physical and mental health. This experience has led me to explore religion more deeply. I sought guidance and wisdom by meditating and praying to establish a closer connection with God. I strive to be a kinder person with the guidance of my faith. I know that I am not alone and that God is with me. His love will always guide me. The book of life is real. For those of you who have done something wrong, I want to tell you that each of us has the opportunity to change and be reborn. No matter what we have been through, no matter what mistakes we have made, we all have the power to start over. We can learn from the mistakes of the past. Don't get caught up in the past and don't be bound by the way others define you. Believe in your own inner strength, in the power of goodness, and it will lead you to a better tomorrow. Remember, we all deserve a second chance because life is about the journey of change and growth.